on the hook for, and white privilege, which was an interesting discussion coming out of the school boards. We're going to start, though, with the right to die. And the right to die movement has now passed through partisan politics. It's on its way to the Supreme Court. So is that it? Are we going to see any more political input on this? Or do you think whether the Justin Trudeau's or whoever of the day will jump on board this and try to make this another issue?
Well, I would hope not. I mean, if the Supreme Court passes this and it moves forward, then that would be a choice. For me personally, I think only one person has the right to make that decision on when you leave this earth. I know other people would disagree with me, but that's what I believe in. But for Trudeau to get in, and you know what, we're going down a very, very slippery slope, and there's so many gray areas to this whole issue. When do you pull the plug? Who does it? Do we start looking at disabled people and saying, well, you know, you're disabled, you know, like why would you want to live in a wheelchair the rest of your life?
Ron, I really think you are going to be a very unhappy Liberal under the stewardship of Justin Trudeau, because he's already upset you with his stance on abortion and the way he feels about those seeking the nomination under his party and how they feel about it. And I am pretty sure, even though no one is asking him for his opinion yet on this topic, he is going to come out, you know, for a person's right to die. I think that a lot of young people these days have latched onto that going forward, and I think that he's trying to get into that mindset.
I also think, though, one of the dynamics that's also occurring, which is why it's coming back 20 years later, is that people like me and older who are now looking at people we have seen who have gone through very long
Baby boomers are aging.
Very long suffering illnesses like my own parents or whatever have you, which at least wants to have some parameter for discussion. I think either extreme, you know, if you want to die, you can die, or you can't whatsoever. I think either extreme is just inhuman. But the messy middle, I think, is where we're going to end up, which, back to your question about will there be more politics, I think there's going to have to be, because there are all sorts of agencies like the Canadian Aging Retirement, well, it's CARP, so I'm not sure all the letters, but they're want to get involved in at least presenting a position. So I think that kind of community politics, people as a citizen.
But looking at
we already have that now, by your right to refuse treatment if you have
yes, Ron, but that goes up. That only goes up. That only goes up to some point. And then once people have gotten to a certain point where they cannot actually pull the plug, so to speak, on themselves, that's where they need help. And I think it's just so terrible that people that have to help their loved ones finally end their suffering are being charged with murder in some cases, or manslaughter. And to me,
and that's where I don't think
that's
where I
right.
get nervous. Being an advocate for disabled community, I would really be concerned about other people deciding that this person is a burden,
apparently,
and therefore I want
to.
But look, Jessica,
but
there are a number of first world countries that do have this type of law on the books, and it seems to be working out just fine for them. We have Canadians traveling to Europe to seek this type of end-of-life treatment. I think that this is something that will have to go through the Supreme Court and cannot be overturned every 4 years, depending on a political election cycle.
It is 20 years since we last had this conversation.
It has, and I think, and just like Scott, what you're saying, you know, and Jessica, what you were saying, age of baby boomers, people are getting older. We are realizing we can live a lot longer, but sometimes that quality of life just isn't there.
Want the quality of life.
It isn't there. You know, personally, in my own family, we've all had the discussion, you know, pull the plug if. But you know, it isn't nice to think. It isn't good to think that, you know, when that time comes, I can't give my family what they want.
Ron?
You could talk that way, and it sounds so easy, you know, to have a family discussion. You know what? If it ever comes down to that, just pull the plug, and I'll be okay with that. But when the time actually comes, you start rethinking. Well, maybe there's a new drug out there that could help you. Maybe you know we can go into remission.
But I think it's also about respecting the wishes of the individual. I mean, my family, we had the opportunity to actually
resuscitate or not?
No, to realize the wishes of parents 20 years ago. This is what they wanted 20 years ago, and they wrote it down, and that was, you know, the lawyers.
But we have that
spoke
now.
over the document.
We have that now. You could, you know,
But
if
to pull
the
back
nursing
on
home
their
says,
wishes, I don't know.
If a case comes up, should we resuscitate your mom? No, don't resuscitate.
But we're not
Let her
talking
go.
about
people
those
don't,
cases.
Lots
We're
of
not-
people don't want to spend 2 weeks dying. Lots of people don't want to have the feeding
But
tube
Scott,
yanked
we're not
out and
even
just
looking
lots
at
of pain
we're not even really
medication to let
looking
it
at
happen
that. We're
naturally.
looking at people with debilitating diseases that will take 15, 20 years sometimes to run their course. And
there's
you know
always
that
hope.
at
There's
that
always a
end,
will and
yes,
there's a
there
hope
is a hope,
to
and
live.
and everyone has the right to live, to continue to live. But it's also giving the people the ability to say, yes, my time has come, and I want to die peacefully, and I want to die with dignity.
And the interesting thing that I've learned too about choice is that lots of people who make the choice that yes, I want to be in control of my own destiny, when the time comes, don't take advantage of it.
No.
They just want the option of doing it.
God put you here, and God will take you.
Well, is that on debate today?
Well, now that it's before the Supreme Court, really, do politicians have to touch it? They can just kind of
They
wet their
will.
hands of the whole issue.
They will touch it. They're going to go to their different bases, whether moral or otherwise, and try to drum up support that way.
Yeah.
But when the Supreme Court makes a decision, you know, it's their say that goes.
It depends on what the decision comes out
Yeah.
to. Also.
No, absolutely.
If they come out in favor of,
then we have to rewrite our laws to accommodate for that.
All right, let's move along. Thomas Mulcair talking about daycare. Of course, this was a huge issue in Quebec. Everybody talks about their daycare program. Too early for election.